Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call our September County Council meeting to order. If you would, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on our agenda is our auditor's financial report.
Okay, for September, we began the year with a general fund net balance of $5,676,257. You have granted appropriations in the amount of $2,667,049, and we've had miscellaneous expenditures to date of $4,016. These come in the way of conferences that don't need appropriation to attend, state-called conferences and such. You have appropriation requests in front of you today of $92,500. What you have available is $3,005,192, plus we have the additional miscellaneous revenue that I've added in at the bottom here. Didn't have much to note on the revenue report. Obviously, that additional revenue is bumping up our collection rate there, so we're doing okay as far as the year goes. Had a couple of things on the fund balance report to point out. Kathy had asked this at our evening meeting, the balance of the self-insurance, and that is now at 6.7. So I know, we have $3 million uncommitted in the general fund, and we've gone down $3 million in our health insurance fund this year, so it can go just like that. So, and then wanted to point out the inmate medical fund balance is at $29,689, Sheriff, so you may need to let that build up a little bit more. That was all I had there. In terms of the rest of the agenda, just wanted to point out some of the budget resolutions. I removed the coroner salary as of last year in July. You no longer have to distinguish between a physician and non-physician. You just set the salary, so I removed that resolution. And then we didn't address any changing any of the minimum fund balances for any of the funds. So last year's resolution stands for that as well. So those two are no longer applicable. And then you have second reading on your additional ordinances. The Little Weeaw Conservancy District is a general fund appropriation from their general fund. Since council does binding review of their budget, that's why that's on your agenda today. That was all I had.
Okay, are there any questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to the treasurer's report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We ended the month of August with an account balance of $178,741,819.76, with a total interest of $614,418.10. The average rate and the weighted average rate was 5.59 for August. To date, we have earned close to $6 million from banks and investments, with the general fund taking about $3.7 million of the total interest. And the general fund is sitting at 77% of the original forecasted budget. We do anticipate rates to start dropping, so we will see drops in interest earned. That's it.
Any questions about the treasurer's report? All right, thank you. Is there any public comment to come before us this morning concerning any of our agenda items? Hearing none, we'll move on to our budget approvals. First, we've got Resolution 2024-21-CL.
Make a motion we approve Resolution 2024-21-CL, the surveyor salary.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard, to approve the Resolution 2024-21-CL, setting the surveyor salary. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have Resolution 2024-22-CL.
Make a motion, we approve Resolution 2024-22-CL, the assessor salary.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard to approve the Resolution 2024-22-CL for the assessor's salary. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have Resolution 2024-23-CL.
Make a motion, we approve Resolution 2024-23-CL, the intellectual disability appropriation.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard to approve Resolution 2024-23-CL for intellectual disability appropriation. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have Resolution 2024-24-CL.
Make a motion, we approve Resolution 2024-24-CL, which is the mental health appropriation.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard to approve Resolution 2024-24-CL mental health appropriation. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have Ordinance 2024-12-CL.
Make a motion, we approve Ordinance 2024-12-CL, which is a salary ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard to approve Ordinance 2024-12-CL, the salary ordinance on second and final reading. Roll call.
Yes. Basham?
Yes.
Dolum?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Vernon?
Aye.
Underwood?
Aye.
Hamilton?
Aye.
Ordinance 2024-12-CL passes 7-0 on second and final reading.
Next, we have Ordinance 2024-13-CL.
Make a motion, we approve Ordinance 2024-13-CL, the Tippecanoe County budgets.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard to approve Ordinance 2024-13-CL, the Tippecanoe County budget's second and final reading. Discussion. Roll call.
Dolum?
Aye.
Murray?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Vernon?
Aye.
Underwood?
Aye.
Hamilton?
Aye.
Basham?
Aye.
That ordinance passes 7-0 on second and final reading.
Okay, now we have Ordinance 2024-14-CL.
Make a motion, we approve Ordinance 2024-14-CL, the solid waste district budget.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard to approve Ordinance 2024-14-CL, the solid waste district budget, second and final reading. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Murray?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Vernon?
Aye.
Underwood?
Aye.
Hamilton?
Aye.
Basham?
Aye.
Dolum?
Aye.
Ordinance 2024-14-CL passes 7-0 on second and final reading.
Next, we have Ordinance 2024-15-CL.
Make a motion, we approve Ordinance 2024-15-CL, the Little Weoh Conservancy.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard to approve Ordinance 2024-15-CL, the Little Weoh Conservancy, on second and final reading. Any discussion? Roll call.
Richard?
Aye.
Vernon?
Aye.
Underwood?
Aye.
Hamilton?
Aye.
Basham?
Aye.
Dolum?
Aye.
Murray?
Aye.
Ordinance 2024-15-CL passes second and final reading.
And then finally, Ordinance 2024-16-CL.
Make a motion, we approve Ordinance 2024-16-CL, which is the Recorded Perpetuation Fund.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard to approve Ordinance 2024-16-CL, the Recorder's Perpetuation Fund, on second and final reading. Any discussion? We'll move forward with the roll call.
Vernon?
Aye.
Underwood?
Aye.
Hamilton?
Aye.
Basham?
Aye.
Dolem?
Aye.
Murray?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Ordinance 2024-16 CL passes 7-0 on second and final reading.
Okay, and then we have Little Weoh Conservancy District General Fund Appropriation.
Make a motion, we approve the Little Weoh Conservancy District General Fund appropriation in the amount of $20,000.
Second. I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard to approve the Little Weoh Conservancy District General Fund appropriation in the amount of $20,000. Discussion.
They advertised and asked for this for additional ditch work in the Conservancy District. They couldn't be here today due to a conflict of, they have a board meeting as well. So that's the information I have.
Okay. Any discussion or questions from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have our consent agenda, which includes the minutes from our regular meeting in August and a number of grants and transfers. Anything there that we need to remove for further discussion? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we'll move on into our additional appropriations. First, we have the magistrate request.
I make a motion to approve additional appropriations from the general fund as presented for the magistrate.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the general fund request for the magistrate in the amount of $92,500. Discussion.
So this is for institutional care, as we've talked about with the having to house juveniles outside of the county, where you just having higher and higher costs. If you remember right, during the budget process, we actually increased this amount, I believe, so.
Okay.
And she's down to 10,000, just under 11,000 in the budget for this year.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have Fund 2507 appropriation for the prosecutor.
I make a motion to approve from the prosecutor additional appropriations as presented for the Prosecutor Drug Enforcement Fund 2507.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Drug Enforcement Fund appropriation 2507 in the amount of $1,120. Discussion.
I think it's just supplies that they need. It's
Okay.
from their fund, so.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have Community Corrections Fund 1122.
Make a motion, we approve Community Corrections Fund 1122 appropriation in the amount of $65,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Community Corrections Fund 1122 appropriation in the amount of $65,000. Discussion. Keena, do you want to address this one by chance?
My understanding is it's just increase in utilities and the other supplies.
Had what they're for, but we had some movement of body cams and that sort of thing. I'm not sure if that fell into that or not, but it's just moving, or it's just appropriating from our user fees. So.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
Did we ever get clarification more? I know we talked about during the budget meeting about the utilities and the impact of the solar panels and how the utility rates hadn't changed, or the costs hadn't really changed. Is that what we were expecting? Do we have any more clarification on that?
So I haven't specifically looked at the bills themselves, but
Okay.
From what I'm told is that with the increases, that our bill would have gone up, but it hasn't gone up.
So the panels are covering all the costs of the additional construction buildings that we would have had, so that's
Yeah.
why utilities levels are basically flat?
Yes.
Okay.
But I haven't specifically, I want to delve in a little deeper
Okay.
and look at those.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Fund 1175 appropriation for community corrections.
Make a motion, we approve misdemeanor Fund 1175 appropriation in the amount of $56,891.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve misdemeanor Fund 1175 appropriation in the amount of $56,891. Discussion.
This would be the misdemeanor fund. Again, my understanding is I'm still trying to learn all this is a fund that the sheriff's department and I split, and it pays for our leased vehicles that we have.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you. Next, we have Parks Donation Fund appropriation.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Park Donation Fund 4125 in the total of $7,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Richard, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Park Donation Fund 4125 appropriation in the amount of $7,000. Discussion. Hi, Randy.
This was the reason I went in front of you guys last month, too. We have a lot of activity, it seems like. This particular money movement is obviously in a non-general fund. The naturalist, Mary Cutler, has stepped up. And this is unique because she's had a volunteer by the name of Dan Childs, and I got to recognize Dan because we have like a 7-acre wildflower native grass area at the amphitheater, and Dan has been working his tail off spraying for weeds, which is abundant in that particular field. It was cottonwood. There's all kinds of other, foxtail is a big part of it. But the reason I'm going on is Dan has donated his time, and in this particular instance where we had to move money, he also he set up a partnership with an Eagle Scout to build an observation deck for this particular flower field. They haven't put it on in place yet, but it's built and it's ready almost to go in. So it gives it an elevated view of this particular plot. And the county naturalist, Mary Cutler, hopefully, when we get it set up, will be able to utilize this little observation deck for educational purposes. So we really didn't appropriate enough money at the beginning of the year, but that's why we can come in front of you guys and tell you what we're trying to do and then move money like we need to. So there you have it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have the Animal Control Fund 2573 appropriation for the sheriff.
I'll make a motion that we accept the Animal Control Fund 2573 appropriation to other professional services in the amount of $10,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Animal Control Fund 2573 appropriation in the amount of $10,000. Discussion.
What this is for is so we can pay Precious Paws or Purdue. Over the last couple of months, we've had two bills, one over $4,000 and one over $2,000 for spay and neutering cats. A citizen brought in 40 or more cats, and we get to pay to have them fixed. That's so we can pay these bills.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
And just note, Sharon said she would support anything I said up here this morning.
All right, any other discussion that's of a more pertinent nature? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have K-9 Support Fund 4012 appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Canine Support Fund 4012 appropriation in the amount of $6,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the K-9 Support Fund 4012 appropriation in the amount of $6,000.
This is just to hopefully get us to the end of the year with vet bills and food and such for our, we have 8 canines now, so.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have Fund 8209 appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we approve the COPS Hiring Program Fund 8209 grant appropriation in the amount of $1,250,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the COPS Hiring Program Fund 8209 grant appropriation in the amount of $1,250,000. Discussion.
So this is, we have 6 SROs. A couple of them can go back on the grant that we had before. This is a new grant that we have. Commissioners approved and you approved to pay for 2 additional spots for next year, but one of those, the understanding would be an SRO. All SROs are merit deputies at this point. So what I did was, because this funding's been available, is Rob Rush came out of retirement. He's back in the school, so that gives us 6. But these funds will help pay those salaries and possibly 2 more with a match from the school.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Commissioner's update to the ARPA spending plan. Commissioner Murtaugh.
I'll make a motion that we approve the ARPA Fund 8950 appropriation as presented.
Second.
Okay, so before the actual appropriation, I have a request to update the ARPA spending plan, and I think that was in the packet,
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if you recall, these funds have to be obligated by the end of this calendar year. So we likely will have, well, I know we will have one more update to the spending plan for some cleanup stuff before the end of the year. But there's 2 things I'd like to point out in regard to the update in the spending plan, and one is under the auditor's scanning project. If you recall, we did a project under Auditor Planga to scan some of the documents in his office, and we budgeted $80,000. We have about $8,300 left of that. I'd like to propose that we use that $8,200 for the scanning project that's being done in APC, Ryan's project, to help clean up and get a lot of those documents digitally stored. To do that, I would just propose that we change the title of that from Auditor Scanning Projects to Scanning Projects. So that's a fairly simple one. The other one, the other revision to the plan is taking funds from the housing project and adding it to the WinTech partnership. And those are the amount of the appropriation request, $1,568,891. A little bit of background in regard to that WinTech partnership project. Just as you recall, it was a partnership with WinTech to provide fiber service to everybody who did not have access to Comcast or Metro, who did not have adequate fiber service that was supplied by Duke, because Tippecanoe WinTech was already providing fiber service to all of their existing customers. And when we put that plan together, we deliberately left out the West Point area. And that was because at that time, WinTech was applying for a grant to fund that project. They were fairly confident that they would get that grant, but unfortunately, they did not get that grant. And we, as a result of not getting that grant, we actually, with the help of the Wayne Township Board, who has been incredible through this, we walked the West Point area, encouraging folks to do their speed tests so that we could get the data to take it to the state and say, this is why this grant should be awarded. The speed test showed overwhelmingly that West Point is incredibly underserved. I'll give you some examples. The current speeds, both uploads and downloads, are supposed to be around 100. And Jody, you may need to help me with this. 100, what's the unit? Megabyte.
Yeah.
The average download speed for the tests that were run by citizens in the West Point area, the download speed was 34. The upload speed was 5. So their average ping was 34 milliseconds. What that's anything over 15 is considered poor. So, I mean, it is incredibly an underserved area for Tippecanoe County. We did since find out the second grant request was also denied, and we found out it was denied because federal money had been assigned in that area to provide that service, and it wasn't done. So it's unlikely that state and federal grant funding will be provided in that area. And so that's why we're proposing at this point to add it to the project. So that is a shift, like I mentioned, a little over $1.5 million to that project. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have in regard to that.
Are there any questions?
Due to the conflict of interest, I will need to abstain from this vote.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor from,
Oh, sorry, I did have one question.
go ahead.
Can you talk a little bit about the Wabash Greenway? We're adding money there and what that's going to provide. I'm just more curious than anything.
Well, we already did. That was done in a previous revision.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay,
But,
thank you.
but basically, it was to do a match for the raise.
Oh, for
Yes,
the
yes,
federal-
yes.
Okay, sorry, I forgot that. Okay.
Okay, any other questions about the ARPA plan? If not, we have a motion on the floor from the ARPA Fund 8950 in the amount of $1,568,891 from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilman Murray. Anything further on that? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And we've got Hamilton as abstained.
Do we need to approve the plan change that you just outlined?
I know it's required that we have a plan in place, so I
Yeah.
would suggest we
Okay.
do.
So it might be appropriate to have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the plan change.
Yeah, the plan update.
Do I
as
have a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion to approve the ARPA plan change as presented today.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Vernon to approve the update to the ARPA plan that was presented. Any further discussion about that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Fund 4621 for the auditor.
Mr. President, I would move that Fund 4621 from the Auditor's Department, that we approve $4,955 to catch up on the bond payments.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Basham, a second from Councilman Richard to approve the appropriation for Fund 4621 in the amount of $4,955. Discussion.
Yeah, this is just to adjust our schedule to get us on current year, when we make the payment and how we budget for the payment. And last year, I asked for a similar appropriation, but then didn't consider it for the '24 budget, so I need to do the same. But for next year, it's set up correctly, so just a minor appropriation to get that on track.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Any committee reports for us this morning? Any unfinished business? New business? Commissioner FYI.
The only thing that I have is that we will be hosting our fall e-waste collection day on September 28th, 8 to 2 at the fairgrounds. The spring collection day was overwhelmingly successful, and I do use overwhelmingly. It was a little much, but I do think we have a good plan to accommodate if the crowds are as big as they were in the spring. But that is also a Purdue football day, so I don't think it's going to be as crowded. But we hope to see you all there.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment to come before us before we adjourn? Next meeting is October 8th.
Mr. President, I'd like to speak as John Q. Public.
Okay.
I'd be remiss if I wouldn't make a statement like this. I've thought about it. I slept on it. Not trying to politicize this, but the recent killings again, I've iterated. Channel 18 did a report on it, and how I saw it was a police officer. I had lunch with a police officer the other day. Got to know him. He looked me up, and he saw it on Channel 18 where we did a report about a year ago about resource officers. And I hope this latest $1,250,000 can actually go to the resource officers. I mean, it's a different era we live in. We're going to have to do something that the administrators and legislation people are going to have to get together. I don't care if you want to call it a prison or whatever, you're going to have to come back with metal detectors. You've got to do something. How are you going to get an AR-15, even though you break it down? And that's my feeling on it. There's a lot of strong feelings in the community like that, and I'm speaking as John Q. Public. That we send these kids to school, and you never know, like I say, 3 or 4 hours later, you get a call, you got to go back. We can sit here and think about, well, that's great. We'll get her done. Well, time is of the essence. So that's my feelings.
Okay, thank you, John. Anything else for us this morning? If not, I'll take that last motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Got to take my drugs.
I know. I think, when is the last